Hey everybody, this is April from April Miller Coaching, and today's video and blog is going to get a little bit real, and I'm going to get a little bit vulnerable. This is actually going to be happening throughout my next couple of blogs, and it's something internal that I haven't yet put out into the openness that is the internet and blogging and all of that. Instead, I've been dealing with this this thing kind of on the inside. And it's in the past, it's really eaten me up, and it's really affected my daily life. And so what I want to do is share it in hopes, I don't know, maybe I can reach out to somebody out there that's also in the same situation. If you're a Facebook friend, I've acknowledged how negative I used to be, but I haven't really gotten into many details about that. So I'm hoping that maybe over the course of the week or so, I can get fairly raw with what I've had to deal with. And it's not to make anyone look bad, but it's just to help others that, like I said earlier, that might be going through some internal struggles in their lives right now. And it's all about how my childhood has affected my adult life. And with my childhood, I think I was a pretty typical child. I grew up in a middle-class family. You know, we had the pets. I had a sibling. My parents are married back in the 70s. If you're calculating, stop it. I don't want you to know my age. But I moved a few times. I went to good schools. I was involved in clubs and teams in high school. I got decent grades and all of that. And it looks really good when I share it with you like that. But in the inside, I've really, honestly, just been very ashamed of a lot of things that have happened, but that feeling of being ashamed has come across in with different emotions. I never invited friends over to my house. I mean, I did when I was younger, but it wasn't very often. You know, I mean, I still had the sleepovers and stuff, but when I got older, it just wasn't really a hangout type of place. And I did that on purpose. And as I grew older, and yes, I grew wiser. Yes, that does happen. I realized that my childhood was actually filled with abuse. And when I say abuse, I don't want you to picture beatings and bruisings and hospital visits, because it honestly was not any of that. Abuse is not just that. And sadly, that's what a lot of people think. They think of the abuse and they think of the major stuff. There's so many levels of abuse. I see it on a daily basis with my students. I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with other people. But there's also an abuse in the form of mental and emotional, and you cannot always see that. It comes across in different ways, so it can be misconstrued, but you don't see that damage on the inside. And that's what I went through. Or you can't see it on the inside. Definitely can't see it on the outside, but that's what I went through. Overall, I really felt like I was criticized all the time, and I wasn't ever good enough. Was that the intention of what happened in my childhood? I'm not sure. I can't speak for the person or persons that did that to me, but I do know that's how I felt. I felt I never looked good enough. I was never musically good enough, and music is right now and was my passion. It always has been my passion. I used to play piano. I love to sing. I love all of that, but I always felt that I wasn't good enough. I felt like I wasn't good enough in sports. I did tennis for 1 year. I did cheerleading for a year. And I felt like, even with my grades, like I was an honor roll student, but I still felt like I wasn't good enough. It was just with everything. There's always criticism with my life. I'd share positive things, and then it'd be turned around into a negative. And that's one thing as an adult, and I'll get into that later. It drives me effing crazy when you share a positive and somebody immediately turns around to a negative. Why do you do that? Like, you don't get it. People don't want to hear that shit. Like, seriously. And all this stuff, it happened throughout my childhood all the way up to 18. And what a lot of people don't realize is when you're constantly told something, you tend to accept it and you agree with it and you act upon it. And that's what molds us. That's what makes us into the people we are. So those of you that knew me back then, knock your shit off, because seriously, we all have stories. And this is my story, and I'm going to be real with you. And that's what happened in my life. I'm a different person now. Whether you want to believe it or not, whether people that knew me in the past want to believe it or not, I am. And I don't have to prove myself to you, but I am sharing in hopes that I can help somebody else. not to prove myself. So, and it's just like, you know, when you've heard the stories, like if you tell a child they're stupid or you tell them they're fat, they're going to live up to it and they're going to do it. Tell people they're fat, they're going to keep eating the crap. So knock it off. Like, seriously. But that's what I did. I was always negative. I always turned something positive into something negative. I'm not innocent. I totally was there. That is natural and it happens. And as adults with our children, and I'll go into that again later, and with our friends and with our coworkers, knock it off. Like, don't do that to people. Because all we're going to do is we're going to continue that cycle. And it's not a healthy cycle. The person or persons that did this to me, I was never close with them. I thought I was, but it wasn't true. I was never really close with them. There was a lot of yelling in my house too. There was a lot of drinking. I remember waking up in the mornings and I'd find empty beer cans just pouring out of the garbage can. And when I mean empty beer cans, I don't mean like 2 or 3. I mean like, or even a 6-pack. I mean 2 or 3 times, if not more than that 6-pack. And to me, I guess at this point, I figured that misery loves company, because that's what I realized when I got older. If others, you know, if other people, so if an individual is miserable and that individual sees others that are not miserable, they're going to try to make them miserable because they want to feel normal. You're not normal. If you're miserable and you're trying to make other people miserable, you're not normal, but they're trying to normalize it so that they can accept it and think that it's okay for themselves. And a lot of us just end up doing that. We grab onto that. I've done it too. And when somebody in misery loves company, and we jump right on the bandwagon with them. So that's kind of a little bit with my childhood, a little bit of my background. My future blogs, I'm going to be talking about adulthood, how that set into my adulthood, and how it recently has affected me, how I transferred it into that part of my life. You know, I really hope I'm not alone here with my childhood. I would love a comment or two, a like, something, to let me know that I'm not alone in this when I was in this journey as a child. So I'm just wondering, who has anybody else had a similar upbringing? But yeah, I hope you join me on my other ones. I'm gonna be raw, I'm gonna be real, I'm gonna cuss. That's just who I am and what it's all about. But you know, I don't know, come in on the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's help each other out. And anyways, to be on a positive, not a negative, I hope you guys have a great day. Bye.